What if the thing you thought would save you ends up silencing you? What if the dream, the one you chased with all your heart, became the very thing that made you forget who you were? You see, no one talks about the quiet kind of regret, the kind that whispers in the middle of the night when you're lying next to someone and still feel alone. They told you to settle down early, build a life, be a man. But they never warned you what happens when you do all that before you even know yourself. You thought love was enough. You gave her a home before you built your own soul. And now you're starting to feel it. That weight, that ache. Because statistically, early marriages carry a higher chance of dissatisfaction. Not because love wasn't real, but because you were still unfinished. And maybe deep down, you're starting to ask, did I marry because I was ready or because I was afraid to be alone? This is for the men who said, I do, before they ever asked, who am I? What if the thing you thought would save you ends up silencing you? You thought love would fix the ache. You thought building a home early would protect you from becoming like the men you feared or the emptiness you ran from. But no one told you that sometimes, in saving others, you forget to save yourself. You gave her everything, your name, your strength, your promises. But somewhere between I do and what now? You misplaced you. Now you provide. You protect. But beneath that, you're quietly drowning. They see the husband, the man, but the mirror still shows a boy trying to make sense of a life that came too fast. And you wonder, who am I when I'm not needed? When the house goes quiet? When her eyes no longer light up like they used to? When your own dreams whisper at night, asking if you've forgotten them? What's left? It's like planting roots in borrowed soil. You grow, you serve, you show up, but nothing ever fully feels like yours. Not because you're broken, but because you were never given space to become. And the ache deepens, because while you're still figuring out who you are beneath the weight of what you've built, she's changing too, not in defiance, not to hurt you, but because growth comes whether we're ready or not. And sometimes two people growing don't grow together. So now you're evolving, she's evolving, but the space between you keeps widening like a bridge that no longer knows how to hold weight. And in the silence of that distance, resentment whispers, why does this feel like a cage? Why does love now sound like obligation? You're still in the same bed, but somehow you feel miles apart. You hear her breathe, feel the warmth of her skin, but it's like lying next to a stranger you still love. So you do what no one warned you about. You shut down, not out of pride, but out of confusion. You become quiet, emotionally unavailable, hyper-independent, because it feels safer than trying and failing to explain the storm inside. And then the guilt hits you like a wave. How can I crave space in something I beg God for? But brother, hear me, wanting space doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. You committed before knowing how much of yourself you'd have to leave behind. And slowly, the silence becomes heavier than the words ever were. Because after enough distance, something shifts, not just between you two, but within you. The emotional walls, they don't just go up. They get thicker, higher, tighter, and now, the arguments, they're never really about the dishes, are they? They're about dreams shelved, desires buried, the quiet mourning of the man you could have been. She says you've changed, but you wonder if you ever even became. You wanted a partner, but somehow you became a prisoner, not to her, but to your own choices. And the most dangerous breakdowns? They're the silent ones. The ones where no one hears you crying behind the bathroom door, where your reflection stares back at you, hollow-eyed and wondering, is this it? You feel selfish for wanting more, for needing more. But brother, you're starving too. Starving for freedom, for clarity, for the version of you that never got to grow before you were expected to lead. And this is where men disappear. Not physically, but emotionally, internally, slowly fading into a life they built but never truly chose. But something happens in that silence. Somewhere between the late night overthinking and the quiet sobs in the shower, a whisper rises. Not from outside, but from within. Who was I before all this? Not as a husband, not as a provider, but as a man, as a soul. And in that stillness, you flash back to that younger version of you. Eyes full of fire, a heart full of dreams. That boy who thought he had time, but traded it too early for a role he hadn't rehearsed. You ask yourself, did I marry because I was ready or because I was afraid to be alone? And the truth hurts, but frees you, because maybe you weren't building a future. Maybe you were just escaping a fear. Maybe you didn't fall in love with her. You fell in love with the idea that someone could finally define you. But she's not the villain. The timing was. Two people still becoming, try to build something permanent on foundations, still wet with youth and uncertainty. And now you see it. You weren't lost because of her. You were lost long before her. You just didn't notice until the quiet made you listen. And once you face that truth, the healing doesn't scream, it whispers. You start to understand marriage was never just about love. It was about timing, about maturity, about two lives aligning, not just colliding. You see now, it wasn't all your fault, but it is your responsibility. Because no matter how broken it feels, you can rebuild, but only if you rebuild yourself first. You stop blaming. You start reflecting. You no longer look at her as the reason you're lost. You see her as the mirror that revealed the man you never finished becoming. And you realize you can't pour from an empty manhood, not into a marriage, not into a child, not into yourself. So you start slow. You forgive the boy who married too early. You honor him, but you don't stay him. There's no shame in evolving. There's no guilt in growing. Because pain doesn't just break you. It shapes you. It sharpens you. It points you home. And maybe this is what manhood really is. Not pretending to have it all figured out, but choosing every day to come back to yourself, to the man you're still becoming. And if you're listening to this, if this feels too familiar, I want you to know something. You're not failing. You're just finally waking up. And that is a beginning. And maybe this isn't just your story. Maybe it's ours. Because behind quiet eyes and forced smiles, so many men carry this same invisible ache, try to be enough while forgetting they're human too. So if you're sitting there feeling like you gave your heart too soon, or you're stuck in something you can't even name, let this be the start of honesty, of wholeness, of brotherhood. If this speaks to your heart, tell me. Tell me in the comments what part felt like you. No judgment here, only healing. Let's build a place where silent pain finds a voice, where men can be soft and strong, where stories like yours don't echo in the dark. Subscribe if you're tired of shallow advice and you're ready for real conversations, the kind that don't just fix problems but understand people. You're not alone in this, and you never were. This is where your healing begins.